When you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back.
Generalized black woman is doing this and being this. That is that is irresponsible.
No, when you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back.
Showing me,
black and proud. Claim you're African, black and proud.
I think that
as
a person who has a page,
what is the status of people with half FBA?
When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back.
That's why I was laughing, because I am
claim you're African.
I'm not saying the framework doesn't do a thing, but
become a part of it.
We've been
embrace
forward to black men
become a part of it.
Being in the control. We
become a part of it.
Only
embrace it.
And those to me one of the best stories I've ever heard.
Embrace it. When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind
that
back.
mental growth takes place. You can misled by leadership, for instance, that thinking you can consume.
When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you.
Peace and power, family. Dr. Dahl back in the building again. Today I got a special guest. I don't know how I'm doing it. What do they call it? Someone who, one in the rotation, one who, what do they call it? A person who, what do they call it? Cuz, what do they call it? They call it I forgot. They call it not a guest when you like. They call it something when a person is always there. Y'all help us out in chat. We'll get back to it. And I'm also trying to
give us a name for it.
Yeah, and I'm also trying to figure out a name to actually put in the actual what they call the chat itself. You know what I mean? We're trying to figure out what do I call the chat? You know what I mean? But anyway,
you got a good one though. You could call yours the DAW Squad.
The DAW Squad. Oh boy, look, that sounds too close to
but
Doc Squad.
Oh yeah, my bad. Never mind. We ain't trying to go there.
Hey, no, that might be good though. I don't know. We'll think about it, family. Give us some ideas. You know what I mean? So family, we're gonna have a good one tonight. Please, as you come in the building, make sure you can hear us. We sound good. Make sure we come into the mics and all that type of thing. As you come in, all right, Mr. K is in the building. Mr. K is in the building, y'all. The Pan-African Library. I didn't realize. I thought I might have lost my Pan-African Peacemaker title. But it looks like Mr. K is still calling me the Pan-African Peacemaker here. I thought I started a lot of trouble in these YouTube streets, but I guess I'm still here, still on task, still on the rails. So we got Mr. K, peace and power. He says, greetings to the Pan-African Peacemaker and the Pan-African Terminator, that being Proper Perspective, a.k.a. Professor Shabazz. So he's in the building, family, and we're going to talk about this. Amanda Seales defend Cheyenne Bryant. I think we're going to do something a little different than some others I've seen discuss it. And I want to be clear on the onset. This conversation is not about hating another black woman. I just want to say that, like, not from us. And I'm also arguing that this conversation around sisters hating on the sister, I would argue, now Professor Shabazz can come in and say what he has to say about that, but I'm arguing it's more complex than that. It's not about being mad at anybody's degrees, and it's not simply about attacking someone's platform or being jealous of someone's fame. I think we have to look at this thing with more complexity. And I want to be clear, I'm speaking as a licensed clinical professional and a counselor educator, one who educates people at the PhD and master's level in mental health. I want to make that clear from the onset. I also want to say, now understand that we live inside of systems. And me, I am one who really, really look at the systems and the structures and the institutions and how they're not serving us. But I want to be clear what Cheyenne is doing and whoever else, but in this case, Cheyenne, this is not about what she's doing with her illegitimacy is not about combating institutions. It's not about combating institutions. It's about self-enrichment. It's about selfish motives. It's about self-aggrandizement. It's about selfish motives. So again, this is not about gossip. As my cousin said, maybe this will be the doc squad. You know what I mean? Because we over here want to talk about things from an educated, African-centered, Pan-Africanist, just being black type of lens. So again, there's a lot of people here already talking. And, you know, it's difficult for me at times to think about, should I talk about this? And the reason why I'm talking about this now, and I've been talking about it for the last few weeks actually, is because it's serious. And it's bigger than just Cheyenne. I know people try to dismiss people and say it's this one person. I know it's bigger than the system itself. I mean, I'm saying this is a part of the system that have us oppressing one another. Peace, brother Jadorian. So what I'm going to do, family, I'm going to say peace and power to proper perspective, Professor Shabazz. Talk to the people.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? This is your brother Shabazz, Professor Shabazz sometimes. I'll piggyback a little bit just to say, you know, because I as well have been talking about this subject and these incidents for a few days. And I want to say, at least from my perspective, from the outset, you know, I'm not just like my cousin said, you know, I'm not here. I am never here to try and talk down on a black woman. This is not about trying to put Cheyenne Bryant in a bad light. You know, I mean, she sort of did that on her own. It's not about, you know, now I will say, you know, I will be discussing a little bit why anybody would try to stand up and rubber stamp someone who is, you know, someone who chooses to entangle themselves in a web of deceit. And so, you know, that might be like a little pot shot towards Amanda Seales. But this is really about what people believe, what the community believed when Cheyenne introduced herself to the world or to the community. And yes, and why somebody like Amanda Seales would stand up and rubber stamp and co-sign her for what she did, knowing what she did. And so that's part of, you know, what I'm saying, because I will say, like, I was taken aback when I saw and heard Amanda Seales' support of and her downplay of the damage and the harm and the lie and the deceit. And for her, and even I would say, you know, for her to say, you know, I don't care. And I'm like, well, you know, you may be able to afford not caring, but the community can't afford to not care. And that's, so, you know, that's what I'm trying to bring to bear tonight. I'll leave it at that for a hot second.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna get into a few things, and I just kind of, and please stick with us. We're gonna try and knock this out. But think of this channel as a lecture hall. You know what I mean? Think of this channel as a lecture hall. So we want to show you details. We want to show you conceptualizations, perspectives, and you can't do that in 15-minute, 5-minute, 2-minute clips. You know, when I think about what I'm doing here and what we do in African-centered and Black-centered and conscious spaces, why am I on the internet? I mean, I had to really think about this. I was talking to my dear brother earlier, I'll just say Tahaka Bay, and I was speaking to him about, YouTube. I think for many of us who find ourselves in African-centered communities and African-centered spaces, we don't necessarily always want to go on here. You know what I mean? It for various reasons, and some reasons that are to be considered. Some reasons that are to be considered. But I hear people saying some interesting things. And I want to be clear from the onset. This is a post I wrote. I said, I know we are tired, but we should learn to differentiate. Some people say, I'm tired of Black people fighting one another. That's what we say, family. I'm tired of Black people fighting one another. Often, this is followed by statements like, go fight the system. What we don't realize is that some people who look like us operate daily on behalf of what we call the system. We don't realize that when we say things like that. Understand that we're tired. But when I think about Dr. Bennett, they went to the people. When I think about Dr. Clark, they went to the people. When I think about what happened in major cities, namely what happened in New York, 125th Street, and different places like that. When I think about those freedom fighters, they went to the people. And we must know that a major portion of our people are on the internet and being misled. This isn't the first time I said this. I'm saying that we must also go to the internet. See, a lot of us have found ourselves in lecture halls, including myself, and we need to be in there as well. But we also got to go where the people are. We often say we got to go to the streets, we got to go to the street corner, but people are, our people are everywhere. So what I say here is nuance and mental flexibility are essential to our healing and liberation. And what do I mean? That we must be able to look at what's really going on out here. We must be able to differentiate between those protecting us from those who look like us and those who are just fighting one another. Because we have to be able to differentiate between those who we think are just fighting, aimless and fruit. No. We have to be strategic and we have to protect ourselves on all fronts. But nonetheless, what I'm going to do is get started with a few videos that kind of set this off. I've showed you this video before, but I think is essential to the conversation today. And I might come back to it a few times, but family, as you come in, give us a peace and power. Let us know where you coming in, where you watching from. Let us know what town, state, country you're in. Just give us a peace and power in the chat. Get the chat going. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Make sure you share this in your groups. This is going to be a pretty, I'm going to say, powerful build with me and Cuz. So let's get started with this.
I want to go back to good Dr. Umar Johnson.
I believe that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is quite possibly the same personality type as Nick Cannon and Cam Newton. I believe that all three of you are serial monogamists with narcissistic tendencies.
So to address the first question, which was, do I believe that I have some narcissistic traits in my low functioning behavior? Absolutely. For me to be able to emasculate that man and he's just loving on me, he's never disempowered me. This man wasn't cheating or beating on me. He was there all day.
Do you struggle with the same thing that I struggle with? Self-importance?
Not at this level. Do I have a high level of self-love and self-value? Yes. Can my confidence be on steroids sometimes because that's the way I inspire me? Yeah. Does my self-talk show up externally sometimes? Yeah. Is my self-talk narcissistic? Abso-fucking-lutely.
I want to go back to good Dr. Umar Johnson was saying.
I believe.
So
go back to good Dr. Umar Johnson was saying.
I believe
that's Cheyenne.
Cheyenne Bryant is quite.
That is Cheyenne. What are you laughing at, cuz? What are you laughing at?
Hey, you know, well, okay, I got a question for you because I'm like, I've seen that clip and whatnot, and I'm like, would it be wrong of me to be concerned if my quote unquote counselor, if my quote unquote therapist, if my quote unquote I don't know, well, life coach uh, is openly claiming their narcissism? Like, I don't know a lot about the full spectrum of the psychological weight of the diagnosis. I know a little bit about what people say in general in the community, and everybody says stay the hell away from a narcissist. As far, like, if that's the prevailing community perspective that narcissists are bad, narcissists are trouble, you don't really want to attach yourself to a narcissist, then I'm like, well, so we got a therapist saying that she very much has these narcissistic tendencies.
I think that's a good question. Dr. Ball, peace and power to you. Brother, cuz how do I sound? Dr. Ball said my gain is a little something sounds, is it too high? What's going on?
On my end, yeah, your mic is a little, I didn't think it was too much, but it's a little
okay. Does it sound better now, or is it too low? I appreciate this because I hate sounding horrible.
Right.
What does it sound like now?
Right now, it does sound low, but there's no lightness. I don't think there's any clipping. And Dr. Ball said it sounds better now. I got I got a horrible speaker, so.
Okay, so Dr. Ball, let me know if I sound good one more time because I did touch it since you posted that, and I appreciate that much respect to that because it's nothing worse than sound being horrible. Video can look bad, but the sound got to be right. You know what I mean? So I think that's a beautiful question. I think it's a fair question. I think we have to be clear that, okay, thank you, Doc. I think we have to be clear that narcissistic traits don't equal narcissism, don't equal narcissistic personality disorder. Okay. Because we, as Dr. Nick spoke about last week when he was here, that we all have, like he would say, blood pressure, right? And on a spectrum, like we all on that spectrum. Some of us are above the certain numbers in which we qualify for high blood pressure, and some of us are like borderline, and so on and so forth, right? But what happens is there are a spectrum of traits. They are a cluster of traits or a pantheon of traits that combine at certain levels, high or low, that create what we call this narcissistic personality disorder. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people are using narcissism in a way that is not necessarily the clinical levels of narcissism. Now, I would argue that sister has a lot from her own mouth and from what I see out here, that there's definitely a cluster of traits that seem are concerning. No diagnosis, but I would say that it is concerning. And also what we've seen recently. So just because she says, just to answer your question succinctly, that she has narcissistic traits is not the same thing as her saying she has narcissistic personality disorder. However, when she talks about those traits, right, and she speaks about how she treated that man and how cold she was and what she did, we have to understand that a trait is something that is, you're wired that way. Right. So this is a part of your personality. So in order not to do that, you have to fight real hard against it. So if she is saying that she's treating someone like that and he didn't deserve it, you should raise your eyebrow, because in essence, she will have to do a lot of work not to continue that type of behavior. So personality in essence is the way that you think, feel, and behave. So there's a pattern there's a pattern of thinking. There's a pattern of the way that you feel, emote, the way that you feel about how you think and then behave as a result. And it all kind of intertwines. So what we have with her is what she calls, from her self-diagnosis or her self-assessment, quite like we'll see in this next clip, that she has narcissistic traits. Now, all of us to some degree have what you can call some level of narcissistic traits, but I would tell you what could be considered narcissistic traits, or I don't even know if I can say all, but what I will say is many of us, right? And so, for example, okay, if you just had one trait that is like you're very grandiose but you weren't cold, and you weren't you didn't have illusions of grandeur, and like all these other things going on, like it will form a totally different person. That person just gets on your nerve because they're so grandiose. They're like, okay, all right, brother, stop talking about yourself. But he wouldn't hurt a fly, or she wouldn't hurt a fly. But what Dr. Bryant is saying here is that she basically has hurt people due to those traits. And I was arguing, what I'm going to say again, just to close it out and turn it over, is that basically she has to fight against that, because it's so easy for her to do that. If you saw the video that she put out yesterday, with with her on a boat, and she said, "I'm pretty as F." What's the rapper's name?
I don't know the rapper, but
what's the Latina rapper?
Cardi B.
I think it's Cardi B song or something.
Yeah,
she said, "I'm pretty and petty as F. I'm pretty and petty as F." Now I think she was on a boat, and she was showing her body, right? Now she had filters on, but her body nonetheless is pretty chiseled. You know what I mean? I mean, really chiseled. The filter smoothing on out, but definitely she was sharing with you, "I'm pretty and I'm petty as F." Right. Which is also consistent with some of the things that she spoke about. And people with narcissism definitely utilize, and that's why I'm saying this whole pretty privilege is a whole different thing, because people with narcissistic personality traits or disorder, even, they will utilize that. They will utilize any type of trait, anything that they have at their avail. And if they are handsome or beautiful or whatever it is, they will utilize that and weaponize that to get to where they want to go. And one of the things I often tell people are like, well, they changed. No, I keep telling you, we have to learn more about personality than what we think. And I'll talk about, Amanda Seals is going to say something later that we're going to show. And I'm saying that we have to slow down, I would argue, and really learn from those who study personality. Because we just think that people are going to change, and I promise you they won't. Some people won't change until they're behind bars. And then the grifts get better and better and worse and worse. And that level of confidence that she spoke about in that clip, or that Nick Cannon spoke about in that clip, would show you that, she's overly confident. And that is what people with narcissistic traits do. Certain types of narcissistic traits. They believe that they're so confident that they won't get caught. I mean, and some of the stuff is just downright stupid. If you really want to think about it, you think about, whoa, how narcissistic could you be to think you wouldn't get caught, polite? How narcissistic could you be, nature boy, not to get caught, nature boy? And what I'm saying is, we think these people just become this way because of social media. No. When we learn personality, we understand people are that way through nature and their environment through nurture. And it creates a certain type of personality. These people knew what they were trying to do, and people with narcissistic traits or certain narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality disorder, what they tend to do is they look to be successful. That's why you find a lot of times people in powerful positions are narcissistic. That's why you find that these people who find themselves in high places in academia, the corporate world, wherever you go, their whole agenda is to find power, to be powerful. So they scheme to be powerful. So people say people like some of these social media influencers, you know, these social media influencers are very strategic in obtaining power. It's not by happenstance. It's not like they just became that and then they all of a sudden flipped. No. She utilized and weaponized everything to get where she wants to go. That's why we want to talk about this today. Amanda Seale defends Cheyenne Bryant. It's just not that simple. But let's get to it.
So now the Class Act, baller alert, yet another black space, because there is such a dedicated effort to degrade me and defame me. It is beyond my scope of
This
comprehension.
is old, y'all.
Wants to suggest that because my autism diagnosis did not come from a clinician, that it is not valid. What's not valid is people speaking on things that they don't know about. And my autism diagnosis is not for you all to discuss. It's not up for your debate. And anyone who is speaking on or trying to invalidate diagnosis that comes outside of a clinician is only revealing that they actually don't know anything about autism diagnosis or autism. So I just want to once again thank you all about autism diagnosis, only revealing that they actually don't know anything on or trying to invalidate diagnosis that comes outside of a clinician is only revealing that they actually don't know anything about autism diagnosis or autism. So I just want to once again thank you all for the love. And this is further proof of why we as Black people, particularly in Black media spaces, we are our own worst enemy. And I guess, again, it's just another day of being on the fringe and being in the margins. And anyone who comes in my comments to try to defame me and degrade me, you'll simply be blocked. I, again, will no longer argue what I know with what you think.
Oh. Yeah, so yeah, you got any thoughts about that? Because no, this is an older clip. This is after the Shannon Sharp interview. Any thoughts about that? What she said there is she said a lot. I was looking for a pen to take notes, but I don't have my pen. But go ahead. You got something?
Well, just off the top of my head, I'm like, first off, if you come to the public and you tell the people that you have a thing, whatever the thing is, but okay, you tell people that you have autism. So you bring it to the floor. And now you turn around and say, this ain't got nothing to do with y'all. Y'all don't have a right to comment. You don't have a right to speak on this. Stay out of my business. That, I mean, there's hypocrisy. There's real deep hypocrisy in that.
What's the hypocrisy that you're thinking of?
Well, so you have a right to speak on these things. You have a right to you have a right to speak on it and present it to the world, but the world does not have a right to comment on it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Regardless of I'll say it this way. If you don't want somebody speaking on a thing about you, keep it to yourself.
Yeah. And
like if I tell you, man, I got an alcohol problem. And then 3 days later, you come back and you ask me, how's that alcoholism going? And I'm like, why you got to bring up my alcoholism? You open the door. So again, I'm just like you open the door, you put it on the floor, but you don't want anybody to say anything about it. Why did you put it on the floor?
Yeah, I agree with that. And she says so much here, right? I mean, again, I don't have my pen, but one of the things I noticed is I agree with what you're saying here. As a celebrity who talks about everybody, I mean, I believe she's a celebrity of sort, right? I mean, she made it on Shay Shay. I mean, I think the first time I heard about her when she was on Club Shay Shay. And I mean, I've seen her do some great interviews, including with Dr. Ball here. And I've heard her say some very powerful things even. Now, I don't know much about her, but I will say that there's a bit of deflection going on here. I would also say that she's very black and white in the way that she thinks, but maybe it could be, she said, blame it on autism, as one of my nieces say. She said, blame it on autism. Maybe you can blame it on autism because, I mean, there's strength in being on the spectrum. There's definitely strength, and people show up in different ways on the spectrum. So this is not about this cookie cutter way of looking at people on the spectrum. One thing I will say is that people on the spectrum, autism spectrum, is that many times they see things in a very literal sense. There's differences, of course, but they see things in black and white many times. Now, let me also say this, that just because you are on the spectrum doesn't mean that you don't have any narcissistic traits. It doesn't mean you don't even have narcissistic personality disorder. Because what happened is, to be honest with you, see, she self-diagnosed herself, and then you have Cheyenne, who gave her symptoms or traits, probably from her. I don't know, maybe she saw a therapist, but let me just say this. The fact that they both are speaking about these traits, because autism has plenty of traits or symptoms or whatever you want to call it as well, but it's very difficult, let me just say that, in clinical practice to really diagnose autism in adults. Let me just be very clear. They have been missed. Adults have often been missed. Now, I'm saying as a clinician, it is very difficult to even diagnose a personality disorder. So I'm not going to just say someone has the full-blown personality disorder, but they are admitting to certain traits. And also this sister here admitted, well, she self-diagnosed herself, I believe, but so much so that she says that if you know anything about autism, or that to invalidate it or something like that, she said, to just invalidate it means you know nothing about autism if you invalidate it because you said it didn't come from a clinician. Now, I think that's a very black and white statement, which could be consistent with the autism or that she says she has. But I don't think that, see, again, I know very powerful, very intellectual, very smart people on the spectrum that wouldn't even say anything like that. So then it warrants the question, what is going on with Amanda Seales here? And why is she all of a sudden a celebrity now, seemingly gaslighting people for questioning her self-diagnosis? I mean, especially if the reason why she's saying she has is because the way that she relates and engage or with people, because typically there's this social deficit that happens with people on the spectrum. Especially when you're talking about, I would imagine what she's talking about is high functioning Asperger, what they used to call Asperger's,
right? With
not any intellectual deficits, meaning that she's intellectually there's no struggle, there's no deficit intellectually, but there's these social things that kind of impacts her. But it's also common that with people on the spectrum, again, it's a variety of ways this shows up, is that they are very, let's say, focused on the details and miss the big picture. Very focused on the details. And I'm saying that maybe just perhaps her self-diagnosis, might be accurate. I'm not sure. I'm saying that she self-diagnosed herself because it looks like she's missing a lot out here with what we're talking about today. Amanda Seales defends Cheyenne Bryant. Now, I'm saying that I'm not suggesting that she is accurate about her diagnosis, because I think there's some other things perhaps happening with this dear sister with her level of defensiveness. I mean, but it's not uncommon that if someone experiences autism or any other type of neurodivergence, that they actually become very defensive. Because growing up your entire life and feeling different can create a certain level of defensiveness in people. Because you can live your whole life and try to figure out, why don't I fit in? Why don't I feel like I belong? Why do people think different than me? Why are people looking at me like just looking at me like I'm different? Or, just in general, it can create a very sensitive nervous system, or vice versa. The research of this, or the, let's say, the literature would say that neurologically the nervous system sensitive, or did the sensitivity come from not the sensitivity, but the defensiveness come from growing up and feeling different, or vice versa? Because I mean, there's superpowers in it, to be honest. And when I say superpower, I'm not going metaphysical. I'm saying that there's definitely some strengths in being any of it. Deficits in self-regulation, emotional regulation, all that. Yes. So let's go to the next. Let me see what I got next. I think I'm okay. I see what's going on. So this sister, I just thought she was funny. So let's see what she says.
Cheyenne Bryant and Amanda Seals, both are people who have diagnosed themselves with shit that they ain't got no business diagnosing themselves with. Cheyenne Bryant done diagnosed herself with a doctoral. Amanda Seals diagnosed herself with autism because she's scared that if she actually goes to see the lady gonna tell her you're psychotic. As a matter of fact, you have an extreme level of narcissism. You're psychologically unwell. You have no empathy for others unless it's you. She don't give a damn. Cheyenne Bryant was on my podcast. Yeah, your podcast is for entertainment. Yes, it could be informative, but at the end of the day, it's for entertainment. That's what this shit is for. It's for entertainment. First and foremost, if you get some education, great. But judging by all these clips from all these different podcasts that Cheyenne Bryant was on, what was so brilliant about her being on yours? For those of you who want to hear Cheyenne Bryant's brilliance or her being incredible on Amanda Seals' podcast, here is a clip.
So I'm not saying the sister's correct. I'm just saying that the people are speaking out. I'm saying that she said that one diagnosed themselves with a doctoral degree. And again, the other diagnosed themselves with autism. Pro woman said Jesse's. Okay, I just found out about who this sister's name is. Jessie. I'm assuming. I just found out about her today. Both of us remember her last name was Wu, I believe. Yeah. You got something? It sound like you about to say something.
Well, I'll say a couple of things. It is a funny clip. And I like what pro woman said. She's making good points, but some of it applies to her too. It's partly why I was like, okay, I got to be careful what I'm saying, because I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to assassinate her character or anything like that. But I will say, again, if I go back, let me go back a little bit first. If I go back to what Amanda Seals was doing, and so I'm like, to declare your own diagnosis and then to turn around and declare that, you are protected from analysis. You are protected from critique and criticism about this diagnosis. I'm like, if you are a scholar, like she tries to claim that she is, if you're being an honest and legitimate scholar, then you know where your expertise lies and you know where your expertise does not lie. And you wouldn't necessarily venture into uncharted territory. If I'm an expert in history, I'm not going to tell you that I can, I'm not going to act like I have these abilities in mathematics, vice versa. And so I'm like, again, that's part of why, I have a problem with her, or it may be why I was like saying she seems a bit hypocritical, because she wants to hold these high standards, but then she'll let them go in a heartbeat. But in reference to what Jessie Wu is saying, again, yeah, she notices that both of them, Cheyenne and Amanda, they're operating on this, this self-diagnosis authority, and they're trying to use it in a way that, if it can help them, they use it, and to boost and elevate themselves. But if criticism comes, then they use it as a shield. And so I'm like, you declare yourself to be the expert. Nobody has checked you. Nobody has verified you. You act like you're the expert, and people believe it because you sound like you're an expert or you have some kind of expertise. But then you won't hold yourself to the standards, the qualifications, the scrutiny of what it means to be an expert. And so I'm like, to me, it is a game. You're playing something. You're playing a game. And for me, with this particular topic, with this particular field, I'm like, as the Black community, Black people, we already sit in a space where we're underserved, especially in almost all walks of life, but especially in the mental health system. And so we're already navigating mistrust of institutions. Hell, we're navigating mistrust of each other. So when someone steps into that space, claiming to have this authority, and then someone else who claims to have an authority steps up to take up for that person. We're supposed to receive these people as certified, as they got their bona fides. The stakes are not the same as, for other communities. It's a higher risk thing for us. There's more vulnerability in the Black community.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm like, Jessie is, she may have delivered her critique in a raw manner, but there isn't necessarily anything wrong with a raw critique.
Absolutely.
But, go ahead.
No, I'm thinking. I don't know of Jessie Wu, but as I said, though, it wouldn't be surprising if they don't have similar traits. And I'm not saying, like, for example, there is some truth, and I don't have the data on me right now, but certain people with certain traits end up in certain industries and certain positions. So it wouldn't be surprising, that you end up as the CEO of a Fortune 500 company and also be potentially narcissistic or have high levels of narcissism. It wouldn't be, and this is something I'll just say anecdotally, or I'll say from my clinical experience, it wouldn't be surprising that you have a lot of borderline personality traits, which is also cluster B traits, which is on the same cluster in the personality disorder section of the DSM-5. It wouldn't be surprising if you had a high level of borderline traits or narcissistic traits, because there's much overlap.
Right.
And after further just looking at the DSM, you can also be very borderline and also narcissistic or histrionic. These or antisocial. So these are cluster B type of personality disorders. I'm trying to figure if I'm thinking about all of them now. Antisocial, borderline, narcissistic, histrionic. I think they spoke about getting rid of histrionic, but it's a lot of and these traits kind of cross over where people are very dramatic. You know what I mean? So a lot of people from my clinical experiences who have these type of traits are also those who are the thespians. I'm not saying all thespians have these traits. I'm just saying that a lot of people who are very dramatic and I think they actually call it the dramatic type of aspect of is a very dramatic and emotional and dysregulation. And see, a lot of narcissists can many times regulate their emotions or at least close them off.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is they can kind of compartmentalize these things, or people with narcissistic traits. But also people with borderline traits, a lot of times they're very dysregulated, you know, but it doesn't mean you can't have both. But nonetheless, what I'm saying is there's more than narcissism that's going on in the world. Okay, family? The thing is, why I think that narcissism is so prevalent because it became very pop. And also, mostly when you think about a narcissist, you think about a man. So if you're going to blame something on somebody, you're going to blame that they're narcissists. But again, as I was saying earlier, a lot of people that's autistic, and it's very difficult to tease out whether somebody is borderline at times, whether somebody is autistic at times, or whether somebody is narcissistic or antisocial or what have you. You know what I'm saying? Because they kind of all look alike if you're not a trained clinician. So for Amanda Seales to say like, well, if you don't know anything at all, if you're talking about autism, if you invalidate or you think it's invalid just because I didn't get the diagnosis from a clinician. And what I'm arguing is that it is very difficult for trained clinicians to come up with that diagnosis.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but the confidence that she speaks with, and actually it's not surprising to me now when you think about what she said in that clip. It's not surprising. It's not surprising that she said what she said. Well, we're going to play pretty soon here, because the fact is that she doesn't seem to really respect, in many ways, the science of mental health, the science of being a clinical mental health practitioner, because she's like, well, you know, like she's really like, no, I don't need to go to a clinician to get this diagnosis. And she said something real crazy. Like, I remember on the show, she said something like spending, like she doesn't want to spend $5,000. It was some crazy number. Like I heard clinicians like say, well, I want to be that clinician if that's how much it costs to get an autism diagnosis. Right. Like she was like crazy with it. But no, let's play this.
I'm beginning to think that this is a bot thing. Why are you so obsessed about this? Like, okay, she lied. I can see if she lied and like harmed people.
Well, again, family, this is
beginning to think that
this is I don't know if you want to set it up, but this is what's the sister's name again? Amanda Seales speaking. Yeah. This is her protecting Cheyenne Bryant. At least this is what people have been kind of speaking about over the last few days. And again, family, like this video, share this video. And I think it's essential that we talk about these things from a Black-centered perspective, from an African-centered perspective. Like a lot of people are talking about things, but also from a clinical perspective, right? People also from a historical perspective, you know, but really from an African-centered perspective, a Black-centered perspective, because our voices are often not out here like that. Right. You know, everybody else is speaking, you know, like we like, don't waste the time. Don't waste the time. If you don't speak, or we don't have any representatives speaking for us, or from a more clearer vantage point, then I think we are wasting the time. So this is Amanda Seales speaking about people who she believes are doing too much as it pertains to Cheyenne Bryant.
I'm beginning to think that this is a bot thing. Why are you so obsessed about this? Like, okay, she lied. I can see if she lied and like harmed people, but she was on my podcast and she was brilliant. I think it's fucked up that she lied.
you know, and then that's that. The need to, if y'all went this hard against like Kamala Harris for supporting a genocide, then like, what would that would matter to me? I don't have, there's no match. I don't need to have some type of debate with Cheyenne Bryant. At the end of the day, for some reason, she felt like she needed to lie about credentials. I don't know why. I think part of the reason is because we live in a world where we act like credentials is what determines somebody's effectiveness across the board. And in some respects, it is absolutely necessary. And in her respect, it actually wasn't necessary for her to do the work that she does. That being said, I just don't care. I don't care. She was on my podcast and she was incredible. I don't care. I think it sucks. And I think it was not smart. And I think that at the end of the day, there are people who work really hard to get doctorates. There are also people who call themselves doctor when they get an honorary doctorate. And I don't think that's much different. I don't think it's much different. Maya Angelou was walking around calling herself Dr. Maya Angelou. She didn't complete a doctorate.
Stop. You had another shot.
Maya Angelou was walking around calling herself Dr. Maya Angelou. She didn't complete a doctorate.
What?
Some university gave her a doctorate. Which university was it? Was it Spelman? I think it was Spelman. It's like faux rage to be like all up in arms about this one person.
I think it was last year when Amanda Seales had that sit down where it was Amanda Seales.
Yeah. So you got something on it already?
Oh, I was a tad bit pissed off at that section, so I got a couple things.
Okay, all right. Let's hear it.
Okay, I'll pick up with just the Maya Angelou part first. So I'm just like, you know, trying to equate what Maya Angelou was doing to all this other stuff between her and Cheyenne. I'm like, look, Maya Angelou received honorary doctorates, yes, from multiple universities. I think historically speaking, chronologically speaking, for the most part, after a very long career of presenting a body of work. It was not in the mental health field. It was not in the medical field. It was in, you know, the arts and the letters. Now, the granting institutions, you know, they were named publicly. Everybody knew who they were. The ceremonies where they bestowed them were public events. They deliberately used the word honorary. They deliberately impressed upon you this is symbolic recognition, not academic completion. No one ever had a doubt, had a second thought about whether or not this means she matriculated at the university. The distinction between honorary and earned was never hidden, was never played with. It wasn't, you know, there was no fumbling. Nobody receiving Dr. Maya Angelou's guidance was deceived about the nature of her credentials. The transparency was complete. It was over the top. So transparent institutional recognition, you know. Now, the controversy around Cheyenne Bryant is not about symbolic honor. She didn't, you know, it's about whether or not clinical and academic credentials, the kind to tell audiences, I completed formal training in a regulated field that qualifies her to guide other people in their psychological journey of well-being. All of that was represented as earned through programs, earned through academic courses that, as it turns out, may not have been completed or may not have even started. And the audience is receiving her guidance. No one was ever told that her credentials are symbolic. They were led to believe that she walked down a very real verification pathway and that she completed it.
Right.
And that she stood out as stellar in that journey.
Right.
And so I'm like, and and you'll probably play the clip later. Just the idea that even Amanda Seales, because you know, in the other Shay Shay clip, she bigs up herself.
Don't give it away.
Okay.
I'm building up the case now. I'm building up the case.
I'll pause right there with the Amanda
I'm building
Seales
the case.
defense.
I'm telling the people. Don't. Yeah. Anything else on it though?
I think I had something else, but let me think about it.
Well,
go ahead.
I'll say, well, I agree with what you're saying. You know, like even just looking at it historically, when we're speaking about honorary doctorates, right? Mm-hmm. And her saying, like, again, like you said, that is something that, like, I think that's scuttlebutt. Let me just keep it clinical. So like what I mean, that's a clinical term today. And that's something one of my professors used to always say when they didn't use a clinical term in class. So let's keep it clinical. I think that the fact that she would throw Maya Angelou, of all people in here, you know what I mean? Like, who received the honorary doctoral degrees, and compare those, like either you're having a deficit or something's not happening. The wires are being crossed. You know, maybe the corpus callosum is not, like, it's just not happening. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on. Okay, they said okay, it's blocking my face. Thank you for that.
Yeah, because
it must not look the same on the what I'm looking at here on the screen. But nonetheless, thank you for that, brother American Dream. I haven't seen in a while. So I think it's really low down to do that. Like, to compare, like, Maya Angelou, like, how many people, what brand did Maya Angelou create off of the word doctor? This sister, Cheyenne Bryant, created an entire brand off of doc. She got the doc squad. She has doctor chains of all flavors. You know, she gave the high five, Dr. Cheyenne. That's right. I'm sorry, sister. Give me the handshake. She did the whole thing. Like, and the thing is, the fact that people continue to take lies is not a major problem in our community, is a major problem in our community. Like, that's a major issue. Like, you're sitting here and acting like she said a lie that was just like, oh, I liked your food. Like this is a major lie here. And then it's not just one lie. It's a complex entanglement of lies. It's a litany of lies that are entangled to create a narrative that is untrue. So if a person, see, that's what the problem is. I say we don't understand personality. When you see a person who can create narratives that are so false, these are plotted out, and this is a scheme. And somehow you think that it's not anything deeper than that. You haven't learned yet. And again, that's why I'm saying, maybe, sister Amanda Seales, there's no way you should be giving yourself a diagnosis or self-diagnosis, because you can't see the scheme in this. In fact, perhaps you do. I don't know. But one thing for sure, people who have similar personality traits tend to hang together. And they don't hang together because they don't like each other, but they will utilize each other to come up in the world. So again, I'm arguing that it's not by happenstance that these people with these particular personality traits that Cheyenne Bryant says she has, plot, scheme, organize, put themselves in situations and positions to get into powerful situations. Even if she was, we got to think about it. Even if she was or is or was running for the mayor of New York, not New York, LA.
LA.
And she knew she didn't have a flying chance, but that is publicity. That is a resume piece. That does a lot of things. It allows her to go on the show with Mark Lamont Hill. And Mark Lamont Hill, I'll tell you, one of my critiques of him is that he always act like ain't nothing going on when it's right there in front of his face, including Umar Johnson. He knows better. I mean, but, you know, I can't hold him accountable for how he does his thing. But what I am saying is, from my critique of Dr. Lamont Hill, is that he knows better. Now, he going to do things his way, but I am arguing that he knows better. And he see what Umar is doing. He knows something was fishy about this sister, but he positions himself in a way that he doesn't have to deal with certain things. That's okay. But for whatever reasons, I don't know if I want to say it's okay. But unless this sister says that she was brilliant when she came on her show, like that is the utmost deflection. That is the utmost gaslighting. Like you're telling me this person is lying in our faces, and well, she was brilliant when she came on my show. What? I mean, I think I agree with Umar. Cheyenne, what's the guy named the guy who has the show? Nick Cannon, Cam Newton. But I think you got to throw this sister in here, Amanda Seales, as well. Falls within that personality cluster. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That they fall in. There's traits there. Because why would you even say that this person was brilliant? It's kind of like just keep it a buck. Like that when I have to critique it because I had to critique my sister, Dr. Mayat, for coming on the show knowing Tariq Nasheed is causing all types of hell in our community. But come on and talk about Tariq treat me nice. See, it gives me very similar vibes. Mm-hmm. It gives me very similar agenda. It gives me very similar, like, what are you doing here? Why are you saying that? It's unnecessary. Oh, she's brilliant when she came on my show. I don't care if she's lying, hurting people, falsifying documents, acting like she's a therapist when she isn't. Well, of course she's going to say, well, she wasn't acting like, well, apparently she didn't look at her enough to make an opinion, an educated opinion. Because Cheyenne definitely did not correct people when they call her a therapist. She did not correct people when she called herself. She didn't correct herself when she called herself a therapist. She didn't correct herself. Like, it doesn't matter. She's trying to create a narrative, a picture, or a image that she is something more than a life coach, even though she might call herself a life coach. The fact that you call yourself a psychology expert, and a life coach it's clear that you're trying to call yourself something more than a life coach. Because if you were only trying to call yourself a life coach, you would just say life coach, period. But before you even get to the life coach, you say psychology expert, which people could challenge her with the board and all that type of thing. But as I was listening to attorney sister earlier, like, she's not a board member. She's not credentialed. So how much can they do? She said it perhaps could be a misdemeanor in LA. So even frauds like her know that even if she gets caught, many times, that what's the consequences? The riches, the fame, the attention, because a narcissistic person, not diagnosing, but those with traits and the diagnosis, they don't care what type of attention they get. Let's be clear. They would like it to be favorable, but even if it's unfavorable, they just want attention. Mm-hmm. Trump does not care what type of attention he gets. He just wants attention. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say, throw Umar in there. His traits are screaming. He don't care what type of attention he gets, but he just wants the attention. Cheyenne does not care because she was a doctor. Now she back on the boat, thotting. Excuse my language. She don't care because she just want to be famous. That's her whole agenda Like Umar is very clear that Umar just wants to be famous. He doesn't want to be a psychologist. He just thought he could be a famous psychologist. Who goes to school for over a decade to just get on YouTube and never get a license? Never to really practice therapy. Look, Umar is not a therapist. Umar is not nobody's clinician. Umar is nobody's counselor. Umar's none of that. He does not have the credentials to do that. So that is why he creates this term, not created. I'm sorry, he didn't create the term, but he misuses the name of his degree, which is a doctor of psychology, and then he goes by that. That is not his title. That is the name of the degree. I keep telling people, just like I have a doctor of philosophy, that is not my title. I'm going to go around saying I'm a doctor of philosophy. Cuz, what kind of degree do you have?
I got a master's degree.
One of them.
I got a master's degree in English.
A master's of what though?
Master of Arts.
Okay, so Umar calling himself a doctor of psychology is tantamount to you saying I'm a master of art.
Exactly.
So he uses his degree to give you the idea that he is one. That strong word called doctor, that's a strong word.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be very clear, and you have to differentiate between doctor of what. Doctor meaning first and foremost that you're not a medical doctor. And then secondly, then you throw psychology on there. Now you put doctor and psychology, people, their brains say psychologist. They say that you do something that is clinical, doctor, and that is the confusion that I see here as well. Because in the mental health realm, it's a different type of degree. See, even if it's a PhD is not just an academic degree. It is an academic and it's also a clinical degree. If you're talking about psychology, counseling, social work, those type of things. When you're talking about from the clinical trajectories, it is so. For example, it's not like you're just an academic, and I'm not minimizing when I say just. I'm saying it's both and. It is a clinical degree, like a MD. A MD is a physician, is a clinical degree. So people are clear that you with a MD that you might hurt somebody because you're offering services that are health related. If you got a PhD, because I'm arguing with these people who have PhDs in literature about who cares. That you have to look at it, it's not the same. When you had a PhD or a master's degree in some clinical field, that's all types of stipulation, especially when you have licensure that goes with it. So anyway, because what you need to go do and start calling yourself a master of arts. Just like I'm just gonna start saying I'm a master of science. And I'm a master of science, and I'm a master of science and a doctor of psychology. I'm sorry, a doctor of philosophy. Oh, I'm a master of science and a doctor of philosophy. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
It does.
That's
let me tell you. I got a personal anecdote because I was gonna bring this up. When I was in the program, when I was in the master's program, me and some of my friends, we sitting around and we was talking, just regular, just kicking it, shooting the breeze and whatnot. And somebody in the group was like, you know what? Once we finish this degree, once we finish this program, we can call ourselves masters. Now, at the same time, or at that particular moment, the conversation veered into whether or not we even wanted to use that term. We were sitting around all being all pro-black and Afrocentric. The master is, that's the plantation. Hold on now, bro. But okay, now we put that to the side and we was like, yeah, masters of literature. I'm gonna call myself a master of English, or I'm a master of the language. And back then, we were still in the middle of the program. We didn't know one thing from the other. We thought it was clever. We thought it was funny. But our professors heard us. And, so our professors was coming over and they was like, listen here, you ain't finished yet. And before you finish, you're going to understand that's not the convention. That's not how we do things. You don't get to decide what your credentials mean or how you or how it is titled. You know, they were like the institution, the field, the professional community has already made those decisions. Now, yeah, you can have some enthusiasm about what you achieved. You can beat your chest, you can pat yourself on the back, and nobody's going to take that away from you. But what you achieved, your enthusiasm about it doesn't override you know, the established naming conventions that exist to communicate very specific bounded information to the people who receive it, because your titles are not so much about you. They're not really for you. They're for the community. They're for the audience. They're for the people that you are supposed to be helping in whatever way that you're going to be working with them, so that they know exactly who they are dealing with. And so, like, the moment you start customizing your title based on what sounds good to you, what sounds more impressive to you, or what you think sounds more impressive to others, you are stepping away from the professional corridors that you said that you wanted to enter. And you're not communicating information, you're performing authority. Now, why you're performing authority, why you're holding up this veneer, that's enough, you know. Now that might go back to them narcissistic tendencies and what are they, delusions of grandeur and grandiosity, and you know, that might be it. But you know, it's definitely, it's not the professional thing to do. And I'm like, you wouldn't. One of the things that bothers me the most is people keep trying to play with this particular field. You know, if somebody like if you're trying to buy a house,
right?
You know, so you got somebody. Oh, person A is a realtor, and person B is just, I'm a real estate expert. Now, I kind of hope people already know, but if they don't already know, one of those persons can get you in a world of trouble. And will never have any accountability. Both of them could get you in a world of trouble. But a person who's a realtor, you know, they are the licensed real estate agent. They are the dues paying member of the National Association of Realtors. They are bound by a code of ethics, and they are subject to discipline. So they have something over their head if they do wrong. But the person is just a real estate expert. I have extensive experience in property transactions. They gonna sell you the Brooklyn Bridge and leave you hanging. Somebody gonna be knocking on your door talking about, you just bought my house. Right. And you will have no recourse because there's nothing anybody can do about it. They just a wild cowboy. And so what I'm saying is, for the most part, people seem to act like they understand the importance of official documentation, the importance of licensure. When it comes to almost everything else, they want a licensed and professional real estate person. They want a licensed and professional. They want teachers in the classroom to be licensed and professional. But as soon as we get to mental health, hey, I diagnosed myself. I know what it is, and I can help you too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that stigma, you know, it's already a stigma in our community around mental health. There's also there's I would argue there's a lot of trauma that has people look past, you know, what actually is required to become a trained mental health professional. And I think with that, what I like to do is play another clip really quickly and move through. We want to move a little bit more expeditious so we can get through a few more of these clips. And let's see.
Do the work that she does. That being said, I just don't care.
And I think one of the reasons why a lot of individuals will say it's not that deep or state that it's just entertainment is because, one, you think mental health in psychology is just folk wisdom, and it's not, it's a science. And two, you guys are very insulated from the field that you claim to be discussing because you don't work in that field and you haven't in quite some time. But as someone who walks into the offices and sees the clients and goes to the talks and does the community programs, we are struggling. And in these little entertainment only pieces that are spreading misinformation, you're doing more harm for the Black community than you know. And the reason why you don't know is because you're so insulated from the Black community. You just sit in front of these mics and you make all these money and you do all these Patreons and you wear these crazy hats and you do all that. But I would actually say I don't see these kind of places as pro-Black. I don't. And the only way you would know that is if you did the work that I do. And you're never going to, because one, you're not qualified. And two, it would break you down.
I don't care.
She says she don't care. You know what I mean? She says she don't care. And I was listening to you, cuz when you were speaking to, you know, how people don't respect it. And if you listen to our dear sister, Dr. Martin, explain all that you go through and all the training that you have, I think that it's a major misconception, because even students who come in, me being a professor, students, lots of times when they come in, what they think it's going to be and what they actually have to undergo is something very different. They think that you're just going to come and basically going to just listen to people, but the reality is it is truly a science and a art. The art is actually the interventions when you're working with the client, how you do the thing. But there's science that's guiding you in your ideas, your understanding, just like science guides medical professionals. See, mental health, again, is such a stigma, but also in the West, we don't really appreciate, or we don't get great significance to that which is not physical. Again, we put so much into that which is physical. Hence, we got Cheyenne Bryant with her on the boat showing her physical. You know, in the West, we've been taught to see physicality and all things that you can touch as being more significant than that which you can't touch. See, because there's psychological constructs, there's things that you can't see, touch, feel, or even taste when you're talking about the mind, when you're talking about psychology, when you're talking about things like depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder. Now, there's some, it's some nuance there, but for the most part, when you can't touch it, we think it's insignificant. And we don't really realize, myself, becoming a trained clinician, I learned that, wow, this stuff is real. And many of us don't know how real it is until we really get in the field and start working with people. Like even the textbooks, you're getting all this information, but then you have to go through your clinicals and you say, man, this stuff really exists. Trauma is real. Bipolar disorder is real. I don't care what Umar says. ADHD is real. Anxiety is real. Autism is real. I mean, you can call it all you want to. I mean, what I'm saying is, again, don't get it confused that Cheyenne Bryant is a revolutionary. Don't get it twisted that now Umar he says he's a revolutionary, but ain't no daddy at home disorder does not substitute or is not a good enough diagnosis when we're talking about somebody who's really struggling with what we call ADHD. Now, that's a very simplistic and funny and humorous type of play on the word, but we really get excited when we hear Umar say things like that, because mental health it's like we think that because it's, and that's why we don't really even respect each other a lot when people say they have depression. That's why when somebody say they're depressed, we don't give them much attention. We just think they can just whip it up and get up and go and do everything and smile and just get up. Now, just do something. And the person, you don't truly understand that mental illness or mental disorder, whatever we want to call it, we can fight about that. It's real. It's measurable on psychological constructs and some brain scans for some illnesses. It's not as easy as some biological illnesses. Actually, it's more complex because you have to measure it in different ways. But the reality is there's lots of research, statistics, analysis that goes into this. And you have to be trained to understand statistics at advanced levels. You have to understand testing, evaluation, assessment, diagnosis. Now, you might not agree with diagnosis, but the reality is we cannot totally dismiss it because the thing that is being measured, whether or not it's 100%, you will never be 100% when you're talking about mental health or anything that is not. Well, they have a hard enough time diagnosing people in a physical sense, which you can touch, which you can put in a test tube. So you understand it's way more difficult to diagnose mental health disorders. It's difficult. It's not easy. So for them to be self-diagnosing and undermining the field, that is what's going on. These sisters ain't just hating on Cheyenne Bryant. They're not just hating on Cheyenne Bryant. These people have put in lots of work, lots of time, and they understand the seriousness of mental health, mental disorders. They understand the seriousness. Now, this is where we're going to get to. Like, this is one of the clips I want to show you why I say that Amanda Seales is out of pocket. Amanda Seales is showing that she's a bit of a, what do they call, a hypocrite. And maybe not even a hypocrite because she does not perhaps believe that mental health is serious for whatever reason, but she wants you to do this. She wants you to respect her.
And, for ongoing purposes, and I just want to also just bring this to light for you because this is going to be a theme throughout this interview.
Okay.
I am a scholar of race.
Okay.
I'm not just someone who experiences it.
Right.
I'm a scholar. I'm an academic of race. So I see the world through a particular lens because I am skilled at doing so and because I'm an expert at doing so. Like my master's isn't just in African-American studies. It's the fact that I was taught by some of the greatest thought leaders of our time. Mm-hmm. So when you hear me say these things, I would just like to ask that because you have someone who is an expert sitting in front of you, to just consider versus be combative, because there may be an opportunity here to see something differently because you have someone with you who is not just experiencing race, but is also examining. And there's a different intellectualism about that. You know what I mean? There's a different intellectualism about that. And I say that also because that's why I went and got my master's. Okay. I went and got my master's because I know that we live in a world that loves to try and find ways to undermine Black people's minds. They love to find ways to undermine Black people's intellect. Look at this DEI bullshit. This DEI bullshit is trying to state that in order to include Black people, we have to lower the standard, which is unconscionable. Because if Black people with no schooling were able to build the White House, if Black people with no schooling were able to create all of these beautiful spirituals that we still sing to this day, if Black people with no schooling were able to till these fields and know the ways of agriculture enough to create the actual the actual breadbasket of this nation, then you telling me that their descendants are not smart enough to get into Harvard without you lowering a standard? That's right. Because DEI and affirmative action is not about lowering the standards, it's about expanding the opportunity. So I went and got my master's so that when I am in spaces and I do bring up race and I talk about these things, it's not just based on experience, it's based on actual study.
Okay. I'll also ask that because if I don't see things exactly as you see them,
I don't expect you to.
Don't take it as being combative. You see things one way, I might see it a different way. That doesn't mean I'm being combative.
I would say it's combative when there's a undermining of how someone sees something.
But why are you trying to undermine how I see it?
Because it's my experience.
Okay, well, I'm telling you, I
don't know my experience.
But I'm saying, see, you take it as if I don't agree with you, I'm being combative.
No, I don't. I take it as if I have an experience and you're telling me that my experience isn't what it is.
No,
You're telling me that my thinking somebody is racist who I was in a classroom with for a year that you have never met. You are emitting doubt upon that because of your own experiences.
No, I was talking about the teacher and you.
Right.
And I said I believe based on my experience and a lot of people is that kids correct an adult, no matter what society it is frowned upon. That's what I was saying. Okay. You took it as that I'm trying to minimize your experience and say, well, I'm defending her when I wasn't.
Okay. I think there's something worth saying that could come off that way and it should be something to consider.
Well, see, again, you're going to consider it your way because you see things, like you said, you see things through your prism. Okay.
I think it's fascinating to watch you accuse me of doing the thing that you're doing.
No,
fascinating.
I think
it's fascinating.
This is your interview, so I won't interject what I think. But anyway, your mom is white.
My mother is.
You know what? After looking at that again, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to turn it over to you. Because I got lots of points, but I'm going to say I don't know if I recall Shannon giving her, like, I really don't, like, I question Shannon Sharp sometimes his intellectual ability at times, but I think Shannon gave her that work and I don't think she expected that from Shannon. Shannon read her. Like, Shannon did a good job. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm gonna be quiet and let you rock off because I'm certain you got something to kind of pick up and I'll come back on you.
Okay, yeah, I got a couple things. And I am noticing something that I hadn't thought of earlier, but let me see, where do I want to start with this? Let me see. So I mean, so this whole I'm a scholar of race. She said, I'm not just someone who experiences, I am a scholar. I'm an academic of race. So this whole that whole piece there, she's using this word expert, scholar, academic, and she asked Shannon Sharp, and it's not clearly it's an interview for the public. So she's asking us to receive her framing with more deference, with more respect, with more awe. Because she is the expert. Now, it could just be a flex, but there's a structural claim about why she thinks or feels that she should be believed more than and instead of others, and that played into his pushback and him telling her, look, you have a lens and I have a lens. And I'm going to use mine, and me using my lens is not being combative to you. But she don't want to hear that. She wants the respect of the academic. I'm the expert here. So you can do nothing but sit here and listen to me. And so I'm like, look, if claiming the expert status, if it is legitimate, if it's a legitimate move that grants you more weight in the conversation, what I want to point back to is how can you in this interview say, give me the floor and listen to me because I'm the expert. Right. And I think she goes on and on about how she gained her expertise, and then come to Cheyenne and say expertise and knowledge and training and degrees don't matter. And I don't care. And so I'm like, that's part of the, I think I used the word hypocrite earlier. I'm like, again, what's good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander with her. And so I would just say, like, the fact that she goes into this whole respect my expertise, and she goes into, you know, where she went to school and all this, that, and the other. She's doing that because she knows the respect that gets afforded to someone that has the degree, that achieves that level of academic accomplishment, and she wants every bit of it for herself. I'll stop there and I'll come back because I think I'm jumping onto another clip.
Absolutely. And what I'll do, you have been jumping on the next clip. Good notes.
Oh.
Look, but even if we get there, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, excellent. You know what I mean? Let's give a shout out to Dr. AJC3. Thanks for the super chat. What he says here is, if my doctorate was questioned, I'd refer them to Google Scholar to download my published dissertation. I wouldn't need to do all that explaining. Ashe, right? And maybe what we'll try to do, because kind of wrap this up in the next, and maybe we'll go through some of these comments. So, what I want to do though is play this again just for a reminder what Cuz is talking about.
So now the Class Act, baller alert, yet another black space, because there is such a dedicated effort to degrade me and defame me. It is beyond my scope of comprehension. Wants to suggest that because my autism diagnosis did not come from a clinician, that it is not valid.
Oh, no, not this.
What's not valid
this
is people speaking on things that they don't know about.
Not this one.
And
that's not the one I want
my
here, family.
autism diagnosis.
Actually, I wanted. Let me see. Okay, I got a lot of clips up. Okay, is this the one? Hold on. Let's see here. That's not the one either. So, this must be a here. Well, that's not either. Okay, this is it. This is it. Okay.
I'm beginning to think that this is a bot thing. Why are you so obsessed about this? Like, okay, she lied. I can see she lied and like harmed people, but she was on my podcast and she was brilliant. I think it's fucked up that she lied. You know, and then that's that. The need to, if y'all went this hard against like Kamala Harris for supporting a genocide, then like, what would that would matter to me? I don't have, there's no match. I don't need to have some type of debate with Cheyenne Bryant. At the end of the day, for some reason, she felt like she needed to lie about credentials. I don't know why. I think part of the reason is because we live in a world where we act like credentials is what determines somebody's effectiveness across the board. And in some respects, it is absolutely necessary. And in her respect, it actually wasn't necessary for her to do the work that she does. That being said, I just don't care. I don't care. She was on my podcast and she was incredible. I don't care. I think it sucks, and I think it was not smart, and I think that at the end of the day, there are people who work really hard to get doctorates. There are also people who call themselves doctor when they get an honorary doctorate, and I don't think that's much different. I don't think it's much different. Maya Angelou was walking around calling herself Dr. Maya Angelou. She didn't complete a doctorate.
Stop. You had another shot.
So again, I just think that, you know, that autism doesn't equate to, pardon my language, asshole. And I'm just being real honest. It doesn't. And I see a lot of similarity between her and Cheyenne. I see a lot of similarity between her and Umar. I see a lot of similarity, you know, like this sister literally goes on Shannon Sharp show and says, you know, says this.
This is going to be a theme throughout this interview.
Okay.
I am a scholar of race.
Okay.
I'm not just someone who experiences it.
Right.
I'm a scholar. I'm an academic of race. So I see the world through a particular lens because I am skilled at doing so and because I'm an expert at doing so. Like my master's isn't just in African American studies. It's the fact that I was taught by some of the greatest thought leaders of our time. So
this is what she says, right? So she wants her degree as a scholar of race. Now, anybody look me up. Look me up. Look up my dissertation. I don't know what I forgot what she said her dissertation was on, but it was like hip hop or something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe when she says race, she's talking about just blackness or African or whatever. Maybe she's talking about that. But the reality, I think they were talking about racism or something like that. If I remember that interview, what have you, I can't recall. But I mean, hold up. They were talking about the little child too. I mean, I think, hold up. Shannon was saying like with the little child. Yeah. It was about racism. And Shannon was pushing back. Well, Shannon was doing some stuff that, you know, that she was checking them on. Let me just keep that 100. But the reality is that doesn't mean that his question wasn't relevant. And it doesn't mean that you couldn't educate him on it. You know what I mean? Just the fact that you can't even be questioned. That's very, that sounds like very tradey. Let me just say tradey. That seems very tradey. Typically, what you see with people with autism is that they literally don't get caught all up in that type of thing. They just tell you the facts again. she didn't give no facts. She just said, believe me. Like that wasn't like from a lot of autistic people, they're like, hold up, that might make sense. If you can literally if you literally can make some sense for a lot of people on the spectrum, they can think about it again. I'm just being real honest. Like people are like neurodivergent who see things in these very literal and black and white and, you know, type of ways and kind of like, no, if you made sense, you can change. Like it might not be about the feelings all the time. It might be more about, that's a literal fact, Shannon. And Shannon did state a literal fact. And sometimes that is what the coldness comes out. It's not that you're an asshole, excuse my language. But see, that's what I'm saying. So her being an a-hole is different than what we see on the spectrum, perhaps. See, people on the spectrum often are seen as a-holes because they're just telling you the truth. You know, that's different. That's very different. No, she's gaslighting and she's credentialing here. She's telling you, look, hold up, little boy. Let me show you how great I am with my degree. I am a scholar, but she ain't tell you the facts. She just told you why you're supposed to listen to her. She told you why you're supposed to listen to her. She didn't give you any data. She did not articulate why as a scholar. She just told you she is a scholar. There's a brother here in Baltimore who's been taking pot shots at me. He probably pop shots at me. He might be listening to this because he does. And all he can tell you about is how great he is. He's been taking pop shots at me with his honorary doctorate, talking about, oh, these people with real doctorate. Like he been taking, like I can't see him. So when I call him out, you know, he get a little ruffled. But the reality is this. He doesn't tell you anything. He just tell you how many books he read. I read 2,000 books a year, 100 books a year over the last 20 years. So you're supposed to listen to me. I said, well, tell me what you read first. I don't look like it's not about what you read or what degree you got. Show me that you got the goddamn thing. Let me hear your analysis. I'm not that people, a lot of us get really caught up into the idea that a person read books. See, because these people know with these personality traits that people are in awe with the fact that you said you read so many books. And they literally believe you. They know that we believe some foolishness at times. Cat Williams said he read how many books? See, the industry is full of them. Some of your greatest thespians, Terrence Howard. I don't know how many people I had to tell them that Terrence Howard is all out his goddamn mind. But see, again, we're very gullible, and see, because we've been hurt by the society. As a scholar of racism, myself, and trauma, because we've been hurt so bad by the society, we will look for anything that like we're counter everything to a degree. And this is how people like these folks abuse their information. Like Cat Williams know he didn't read all them goddamn books. And most people who aren't traumatized by this racist society know he didn't read them goddamn books. I know y'all gonna say, well, everybody's traumatized. See, no, we can't just do that. We at least got to put some level of a measure on it to say, well, we're traumatized differently if we're all traumatized. We all do have pain and hurt, and everything does not qualify or quantify at the level of being traumatized. See, but again, you have to talk to an expert about that. But again, she's talking about she's an expert. Let me get to my notes real quick, what I just wrote down as I was listening to it. She says she has a master's degree. She says that from the greatest thought leaders in the world have taught her. See, again, not all people with these traits literally show up and don't have a degree. A lot of them go to these institutions to validate them. See, again, that doesn't mean that, like for example, people keep talking about Umar really has a degree. He does. But it doesn't mean he could have all 6 of them. But what was the driving factor for him to get those degrees? See, these people with these type of personalities seek out anything to validate them. Some people do the hard route and some people make it up, like Cheyenne. I'm assuming she made some of it up. And they all tend to find these Christian heritage type of institutions, and they get these honorary doctorates and all. And craziness is that they never get enough for a lot of them. So that's different. They're on the spectrum too. Some of them are smarter than others. That guy Richie, I'm sorry, y'all are still listening to him. I'm not saying he doesn't put out some halfway decent information, but the brother got 15 degrees, bro. He got 15, 16 degrees. Now, like, okay, like who in their mind? He's a JD. He's a some type of neurological scientist or something. I don't know. I might be getting him wrong. He's going to medical school now. He's this brother said he got 15, 16 degrees. See, that's when your level of grandiosity has no limit. Where you become so smart that you're dumb. It's like polite. It's like it's these traits that they speak about, and she spoke about. They have you more confident, so confident that you're dumb. You're so confident when you got these traits that people call narcissistic. You're so confident that you don't think that you'll get caught. You think that you will beat the system. Again, she's not trying to destroy the system. She's trying to abuse the system. I'm talking about Cheyenne. She's trying to abuse the system. So again, let me close out with these notes real quick. She says she's an expert on race. She speaks about why does people care about Cheyenne, this one person. Cheyenne is just one example of many of these people that we need to call out. She's one example, and she will cause harm. She will cause harm. She even said it herself that she has, due to her narcissistic traits. Umar will and has caused harm. But I got brothers on my page, legends, Baltimore legends, telling me, and I got people saying they got PhDs and PsyDs and all these other Ds that aren't, I don't know if they really have them. See, because saying that Umar can call, he's only naming his degree. No, he's not naming his degree. He's using his degree title, a doctor of psychology, as his own title. And he know what he's doing That's my assumption. He know what he's doing. He's being very intentional when he uses that doctorate degree as his own title. He has a degree that is entitled Doctor of Psychology. That is not his title. He know that right there is deceptive because we go to school. He's trying to find a loophole. And then crazy old Cheyenne, at least Umar degree says Doctor of Psychology. If Cheyenne has a degree, let's say if she has a degree, at best it says Doctor of Education. So why is she going around calling herself a Doctor of Psychology? It's at best it says Doctor of Education in Counseling Psychology. Now she's going around saying she's a doctor of psychology because she studied a fraud named Umar. That's just an assumption, a strong assumption, a social conceptualization. She studied him and said, "Oh, she know he's a fraud." So she said, "Oh, he figured it out. He calls himself a doctor of psychology, but she's not even down enough to understand that he literally has a degree that says Doctor of Psychology, although that's the title and the name of his degree, not the title he's supposed to be wearing. But he realizes that he's not a psychologist. He's not a licensee. So he uses, he flexes and twists and he leverages his degree as his own title. And she's doing it. The more I look at it, I don't think Cheyenne has a degree at all. I could be wrong, because the more I look at her, the more I realize she is totally making a lot of mistakes. But again, that could be her confidence factor. Cuz come back.
Yeah, I would give I'll give an analogy to try to get this idea across, because I call it gamesmanship, verbal gamesmanship. I'm like, and I guess to some extent, like if it were a different field, maybe people would get it, or maybe it would resonate differently. But I'm like, if a person walks into the room and they say, "I am an attorney," I think most people know what that means. But if a person walks into the room and say, "I am a lawyer," I'm not too sure if people understand the difference between those two. If that person says, "I have a law degree, I have studied the law extensively, I am a legal scholar," all of those are saying completely different things. Only one of those statements is a statement that would mean you should consider employing that person for your legal pursuits. And that's the one that is, "I am an attorney." If they say "I am an attorney," that means they completed law school. It means that they can legitimately call themselves a lawyer, but lawyer is very generic. It means that they completed law school, they sat for the bar exam, they passed the bar exam, they were given the go-ahead from all state licensure authorities that they can actually represent people in court. All those others do not say that. All those others are games that people would play because they need you to trust them while they do something, while they claim that they will help you and they're up to something no good. And so I'm like, that's the same thing that Cheyenne is doing with the gamesmanship that you were pointing out. The only, again, when you avoid licensure, but you want to claim that you're working in this field, see, it's harder to do in some fields because other fields have other terminologies where once you make the statement, by definition, it's this or it's that. And so I'm just saying, again, if someone introduces themselves as an attorney, but aside from that, they only completed law school when they never passed the bar. That's a misstatement. That is an ethics violation. That is a deliberate reach for that which is more authoritative than they actually deserve. And they chose that word to imply a full verified pathway that they have pursued because they want more credibility. They need more credibility to pull off whatever it is that they're trying to pull off. And that's the game. That's the whole entire game right there. And that is what that not only is that what Cheyenne has been doing, that is what Amanda is co-signing. And she's co-signing it after she builds her own case for, that's not what I'm about. See, I went and I did the work. I got my degree. And I got my degree at this school. And I got my degree with these professors. Well, if you hold that status so dear as to command the authority from that position, why you throw it under the bus for? Is that your homie, your homegirl? Or you really just trying to flex because you just mad that people paying more attention to somebody else than you? But that's all I got for now.
Okay, and so I'll go over some of my notes quickly before we get out of here. Family, make sure you like the video, thumbs up the video, hype up the video. And I'll just go over these notes really quickly. Again, I spoke about it earlier. There's a difference between misusing the system versus resisting it. And lots of times, as Dr. Martin said, these spaces aren't Black power. It ain't about Black power. So misusing the system versus resisting the system. I want to make it clear. I want to make the clear distinction. This is not revolutionary. This is not resistance against the system. This is, again, as I said, abuse of the system. A clinical doctorate in counseling or psychology is not simply an academic degree. I said this earlier. It is often part of a direct pathway into licensure within health-related fields. So we must take this serious. When someone uses the aesthetic and language of that system, doctor, psychology expert, therapy language, without accepting the accountability attached to it, they are exploiting the trust the system creates. As I said earlier, this is not about collective empowerment. It's about individual enrichment. It is using the image of authority of a regulated profession without submitting to the same accountability and standards. When Nick Cannon called her a therapist, she didn't say, I'm not. When she put therapy all through a book that I'm reading, I know, I got it. I'm listening to it. When she has on her book, I'm a psychology expert, but not even just that, I'm a doctor of psychology. This is all a part of the scheme. And let's say she has it. Let's say she has a degree. It's still part of the scheme. Again, I was speaking about our community's relationship with degrees. I put here, I also understand why some people immediately dismiss licensed professionals who raise concerns. Many of us have histories of being disrespected, dismissed, and excluded by people with advanced degrees. We have been conditioned to see people with multiple letters behind their names as arrogant elites. So when professionals say something is wrong here, some people shut down before they even listen. That history is real. Dr. Joy DeGruy speaks about it in her book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. We must check ourselves and ask the question, am I responding to my trauma? Or am I responding to what's really going on here? Is it really about hate? Or is it really about something bigger than that? But again, this is all real, but it makes us also vulnerable. We can become reactive to credentialed people that we stop recognizing legitimate concerns in ethics, safety, and deception. Would you be so easy to say she doesn't need a degree, as Amanda said, and the work that she was doing, if this was something medical? Maybe so, because in our community, a lot of trauma has us doing a lot of things besides that which is scientifically substantiated. Amanda Seals specifically. Amanda has publicly demanded respect for her academic background and expertise in her own field. She understands what this means to say. She said, I studied this. I did this work. Respect my expertise. My point tonight is simple. Give that same respect to clinically trained and licensed professionals, Amanda. When people who actually live under ethics codes, licensing boards, legal standards, and clinical accountability raise concerns, dismissing them becomes a problem. And I know that for us who hear me saying that, who have these revolutionary perspectives like I do, we still have to be clear that what Cheyenne is doing, and even moreover what Amanda is doing, is not revolutionary. It's not about it's not about abolishing the system. It's about self. She's like, I don't care. See, Amanda said, I don't care. Umar said, I don't care. See, it's about the I in them. It's about the I. They can care too. It's about you when they say stuff like that. She says, we're talking about one person. But again, we can't critique one person, but you're critiquing a whole body of people, clinicians, and specifically sisters, and saying enough with that. She said that she's a professional, give her consideration. But I asked Amanda the question, has she given consideration to the multitude of sisters who have doctoral or master level degrees who practice in the field of psychology, counseling, social work, in a clinical level? Has she given them that same respect? Or does she believe they have worthless degrees? Is it only that her degree that we must respect that she shared with Shannon in her snippety-snappity way? She pulled out a degree because Shannon had a difference in opinion in something she didn't do any research on. She doesn't have a study that speaks to what they were arguing about. That doesn't make her expert per se in racism. She might know terms and terminology and what racism had done, but the fact that she wants to, she could be right. She could have been right. But the reality is she tried to use the degree as a factor that says that I am right, you are wrong. I don't agree with that type of approach. For my people who think in terms of liberation and revolution, please do not confuse this again with revolution. Revolution transforms systems for the good of the people. What we are seeing here is not courageous resistance in service of the community. It is someone leveraging symbols of legitimacy, doctor, psychology expert, therapeutic branding, without submitting to training, supervision, ethics, and accountability attached to these symbols. That is not radical. That is opportunistic. There's a difference between having a degree connected to psychology somewhere on a paper and being licensed and being a licensed clinician authorized to practice in a health-related field. Let me say that again. There's a difference between having a degree connected to psychology somewhere on paper and being a licensed clinician authorized to practice in a health-related field. Umar has a degree. He is not a clinician. He is not a therapist. He is not even a school psychologist, unless he's in another state, according to what I saw in Pennsylvania. His license has been, I can't think of the proper terminology right now, but it's not active right now. It's inactive. It's on inactive status because he has not completed what many of these sisters are talking about, his CEUs, continuing education credits. So again, there's a difference there. When licensed professionals raise concerns, we are not hating. I'm saying more specifically, my sisters are not hating. I'm not saying some aren't hating to some degree, but I even understand why someone will be upset if they work their tail off and you come up there and plant in their face. They might be upset. They are not jealous. You might find some that are jealous, but we cannot minimize it to total jealousy. I would say that's a small percentage. They are not threatened by this person's popularity. Now, everybody wants to be a superstar. I know we think that everybody wants to be a superstar. They are responding to public confusion that can cause real harm if it hasn't. And anybody who can say she hasn't hurt anybody, I'm trying to figure out where did they get their license from? How do you know what she's done? And how do you know what she will do? And finally, do not let your very real distrust of elitism make you side with opportunism over accountability. Popularity is not integrity. Clout is not competence. And influence is not the same thing as ethical, clinical practice. So with that, family, we say we thank you for joining us tonight. And I'll see if Professor Shabazz has anything to close out before we move on and get up out of here.
Yeah, let me let me say something. I'll read it off. I might try to say it like super fast or whatever. But so let me see. Because I want to close off this anyhow. When Dr. Raquel Martin said that you're insulated from the Black community, I'm like, I don't want anybody to think, this is like women going at each other. It's not shade. It's not clapback. That's somebody who is on the ground. That's, sometimes the kids say they in the mud, they in the paint. That is a field indictment from somebody, somebody that is literally on the ground doing the real work. Amanda Seales knows. Well, I'll say this. Amanda Seales, she knows as much about Black mental health. She knows it the way a sports commentator might know football. She knows it, even like from like the perspective of me, I have this background that has given me a few skills, and I can read up and study, and I can understand some things. I've studied it. She studied it. I got an opinion. She got an opinion. We can analyze things with some intelligence and some fluency, but that don't make us practitioners. She's never been in the room like with a Black person or any person in crisis, who, especially someone who's been, in crisis, receiving guidance that turns out to be damaging from someone that they trusted because that person presented false credentials. Dr. Raquel Martin, she knows about that. Even you know about that. Dr. Raquel Martin, this person is licensed, which means she knows the stakes. She knows if she gives harmful advice, harmful guidance, she knows that her professional conduct can cause damage to a client, and that there is a mechanism by which other punishments will occur. There's a licensing board, there's a complaint process, the potential loss of the credential. So for people who are actually in the field, this is a very real thing. Amanda Seales has no equivalent mechanism She can easily go online and say, I don't care. Because nothing in her professional structure requires her to care about outcomes. She might care about attention. She might care about whether or not you're paying attention to her instead of somebody else. But there's no licensing board that's going to review her commentary or her jokes. There's no complaint process for a podcast. There's no credential that gets pulled if the guidelines or if the guidance that she either gives when she tries to give it or that she platforms causes harm. To some extent, I think she's just trying to protect her platform because she platformed this woman when she was brilliant in my show. So indeed, she's insulated from the actual reality of the community. And so she's insulated from the consequences if she's ever wrong. And so when Dr. Martin says she's insulated, she's talking about, what is it? They call it consequence proximity. The distance between saying something and being held accountable for the something that you say, especially when it has real world, real life implications. And so for Amanda just to get up there and say, I don't care, especially after recognizing and realizing, I know she has to have seen the clip anyhow. So to say that after there are professionals coming online to speak on this in a very serious way, and you still say you don't care, just in that one single sentence, that's just the clearest possible demonstration that Amanda is full of ish. She's just full of ish. And if I can't say it, or I shouldn't say it that way, we're up too late. I already said it. Dr. Martin is the one people need to be listening to. Dr. Asar Weekly is the one people need to be listening to. Not Amanda Seals, not Cheyenne Bryant, and not even Dr. Umar. And that's my close.
Yeah, and there's a plethora of people, sisters, that are online that can be listened to, that are licensed therapists, whether that be a LCPC, licensed clinical professional counselor, licensed clinical social worker, licensed clinical psychologist. There's also some brothers. The field is dominated with sisters, though. So that's one of the things we also have to consider as we say, why so many women coming out? The field is dominated with sisters, not just sisters. I'm talking about women, but even some people are saying, well, it's hard to find a sister that is a psychotherapist that is Black. It's even more hard to find a male psychotherapist that is Black. Let's make that really clear. So when you see sisters coming out, they actually are the majority in the field as pertains to our community, and women in general dominate the field. And I also want to be very clear, because people say foolish things, that most psychotherapists operate from the master's degree level. Most people with doctoral degrees, they have a lot of other options like teaching and research. Not to say people at the master's level don't do that either, because they do. But with a doctoral degree, you're more likely to get a professor role, whether that be adjunct, assistant, tenure track, all the different things. And that's typically, there's more options out there, especially in academia or research or what have you. Most of the people that are on psychology today, when you go and look for a psychotherapist or wherever you go, they're going to be a master's level clinician. So in closing, I think we thank you again for tuning in with us. And what we want to do is ask you to like, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to play this video clip on our way out, just to kind of close it out strong with Dr. Martin, as she speaks real clearly about what is required. In fact, also she said, she talks about why some people, they can't do the thing. So let us speak.
The work that she does. That being said, I just don't care.
And I think one of the reasons why a lot of individuals will say it's not that deep,
or state that it's just entertainment is because, one, you think mental health in psychology is just folk wisdom, and it's not, it's a science. And two, you guys are very insulated from the field that you claim to be discussing because you don't work in that field and you haven't in quite some time. But as someone who walks into the offices and sees the clients and goes to the talks and does the community programs, we are struggling. And in these little entertainment only pieces that are spreading misinformation, you're doing more harm for the Black community than you know. And the reason why you don't know is because you're so insulated from the Black community. You just sit in front of these mics and you make all these money and you do all these Patreons and you wear these crazy hats and you do all that. But I would actually say I don't see these kind of places as pro-Black. I don't. And the only way you would know that is if you did the work that I do. And you're never going to, because one, you're not qualified. And two, it would break you down.
I don't care.
And family, with that, I think that's a great closing. And I agree. Be careful where you get your information at. Even those who are calling her out, Cheyenne, especially on these platforms, getting clicks and views, those who tell the story the best, they are full of misinformation. Make sure you talk to some real trained clinicians because the nuance is so complex. These people are saying all types of bad information out their mouths. I'm saying everything from the institution to all the complexities that is very difficult for people in the field to even know. I'm a counselor, educator. I've been trained in educating people about these things. And this is just a tip of the iceberg. It's a complex field that most of us don't really know anything. A lot of us don't know anything about. In fact, before this happened, most of us didn't know that psychologists wasn't the only people practicing psychotherapy. Okay? And psychologists, you have to have a doctorate degree and take licensing at that level. But again, family, we're going to say thanks for joining us. Like, share, subscribe, hype. You know what I mean? Make sure you get good information. Send the people over here. Send the people over to these other licensed clinical professionals or, just people with sane minds. That's kind of hard to figure out, but you know what I mean. Vet everybody, including me. Peace and power.
When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back.
If a generalized Black woman is doing this and being this, that is that is irresponsible.
No,
when you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind
showing
back.
me,
Black and proud. Claim you're African, black and proud.
Because I think that if
when you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back.
a page,
what is the status of people who have FDA?
But when you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back.
That's why I was laughing because I am
claim you're African.
I'm not saying the framework doesn't do a thing, but
become a part of it.
We've been
embrace
forward to Black men
become a part of it.
being in the control. We
become a part of it.
Only
embrace it.
And those one of the best stories I've ever heard.
Embrace it. When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind
that
back.
mental growth takes place. You can misled by leadership, for instance, that you can consume.
When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you,